Hello then, welcome to the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachiko and these are the top stories. Tinubu appoints members of Presidential Media Advisory Team. Wike slams EU over report on 2023 presidential election. Olisa Bakoba reacts to legal practitioners discussing Tinubu's CSU certificate saga. Tinubu speaks after Chicago University certificate forgery scandal. Former Article's aide who accused ex-VP of corruption appointed as media assistant to KMU. Details now. The world news begins with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approving the appointment of some Nigerians into the Media and Publicity Directorate in the office of the president. In a statement issued today, the presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngalale said the appointment is with full respect for the tenets of Nigeria's federal character principle and the supremacy of merit. Ajuri said the president appointed Fela Durotoye as a senior special assistant to the president on national values and social justice, while Frederick Nwabufo was appointed as a senior special assistant to the president on public engagement. The presidential aide added that Linda Nwabuwa Ahigbe was appointed as a senior special assistant to the president on strategic communications, while Aliyu Audu was appointed as a special assistant to the president on public affairs. Ngalale said Francis Ada Aba was appointed as a personal assistant to the president on special duties. He said President Tinubu further approved the secondment of Mrs. Akibe to serve as the communications advisor to the president of the ECOWAS Commission. Ngalale also disclosed that the president tasked all new appointees who are serving in the Media and Publicity Directorate to uphold the highest standards of decorum and decency in their engagements with all members of the public. Meanwhile, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has faulted the European Union over its report on the 2023 presidential election. Wike faulted the report today during a working visit of the EU ambassador to Nigeria, Samuela Isopi, to his office in Abuja. Recall that the European Union Election Observation Mission had, in its final report submitted in June, faulted the conduct of the last Nigerian general elections. Speaking during the meeting, Wike said the report did not give the true position of the last election held, especially in Rivers State and in the country, but created a wrong impression on the minds of the electorate. Wike also said the EU was supposed to serve as an observer during the last election and not to present a report that would not give the true picture of Nigerian democracy. The minister, however, said Nigerian laws can't be the same as those of the EU because they have different environments. In her reaction, the EU ambassador to Nigeria said independent observers put the report together and it had nothing to do with her own operations. She pledged the union's commitment to work with the minister to boost development in the territory and beyond. Also, the former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, Olisa Bakoba, has disclosed that he is ashamed to see lawyers on national television arguing the merits or demerits of President Bola Tinubu's Chicago State University matter. The senior lawyer expressed displeasure with what he described as a cacophony of discordant voices on Tinubu and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar surrounding the controversy over the CSU records. Bakoba warned that armchair lawyers are hitting up Nigeria dangerously. In a post on his social media platform X today, the legal expert urged people to keep their opinions and views to themselves while awaiting a decision from the Supreme Court. He said, and I quote, "The cacophony of discordant voices on Tinubu article over the certificate matter is completely out of hand. This utter nonsense from armchair lawyers is hitting up Nigeria dangerously. Please, can we keep our opinions and views to ourselves, awaiting a decision of the Supreme Court? I am so ashamed to see lawyers on television arguing one way or the other on the merits or demerits of the Chicago State University matter. This is most unhelpful. I call out all media that tolerate this to nonsense of adjudicating the CSU matter on TV and newspapers." End quote. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has finally made his first public appearance since the recent revelations regarding his certificate from Chicago State University in the United States. Now, VOP News gathered that Chicago University has also distanced itself from the certificate President Tinubu is currently parading in Nigeria. The institution, however, agreed that President Tinubu attended and graduated from the school. In a tweet via his official X account, which today handled by the president, he said he remains focused on his mandate to move the country forward. He said, and I quote on his X account, "Moving Nigeria forward, received a briefing from SGF Akume," that is the senior special advisor to the president, at the State House this morning. "All hands must be on deck in the great task of positioning our dear nation for progress," the president tweeted. Meanwhile, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has sought the permission of the Supreme Court to file fresh forgery evidence against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Meanwhile, a former Atiku's media aide, Michael Achimegu, has been appointed as media assistant to Aviation Minister Festus Keyamo. In a recent development, Michael Achimegu, a former aide to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, has been appointed senior media assistant to the Aviation Minister. Achimegu gained attention during the run-up to the 2023 election for accusing his former boss Atiku of corruption. Atiku was the presidential candidate of the PDP at the time. Earlier today, Achimegu made a significant appearance on a monitored television program where he defended President Bola Tinubu in light of the Chicago State University controversy. During the interview, he also alleged that Atiku Abubakar had more financial irregularities flagged by the FBI in the United States than President Tinubu. Achimegu further argued that Atiku should not be allowed to undermine Tinubu's presidential victory. The appointment and Achimegu's recent public statement have sparked outrage on social media, especially amongst PDP supporters. Meanwhile, a reply has been given by the All Progressives Congress to the PDP, stating that Nigerian President Bola Tinubu did nothing questionable, whether as president or as a student, in relation to his program and records at the Chicago State University. The APC National Publicity Secretary Felix Moka stated this on Thursday while tackling Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the February 25 elections. Atiku, you do know, had filed a suit against President Bola Tinubu over his academic record at the Chicago State University. He requested the documents to back his allegation of forgery of CSU certificate forgery. The allegation of forgery was one of those dismissed by the Presidential Election Court in the suit Atiku filed to challenge the election of President Tinubu. Now, I actually have right here in the studio a political commentator, a social affairs commentator as well, and an author of one of the fast best-selling books, Peter Anosike. Peter Anosike, good evening and welcome to the World News at 6.
Good evening.
All right, thank you for joining me today. Some persons would say it is not surprising. I don't know if you listened to the Political Spotlight yesterday evening, where we asked that the president should quickly address the CSU certificate saga, that a lot has been going on. There's been responses from the PDP, the APC, and a couple of other critics too, who have given their own various opinions as to how this case would be if at all it proceeds to the Supreme Court. Well, eventually the president has responded, and this time he did not pay attention to the noise. According to the president, he did not pay attention to the noise or the distraction. He's literally saying that he wants to focus on moving the economy ahead and making sure that the policies implemented would work to boost the Nigerian economy. He started off by actually appointing new ministers today. He appointed members of his presidential media advisory team. We've been seeing him appoint more members into his cabinet. What's your take on his response?
Well, for me, the process by which somebody comes into office would determine what he's going to do in that office.
Okay.
The process by which somebody comes into office would determine what he's going to do in that office, because in everything, foundation is very, very key. Well, if the foundation is right, then we should expect something positive. But if the foundation is wrong, then they say that there's nothing that will stand on a faulty foundation.
Okay.
So from all indications, the process that Tinubu came into office is shaky. It is surrounded in secrecy. Understand?
Okay.
And this is going to affect whatever he's going to do in the office.
Okay.
And for the past 6 months, he has been running helter-skelter. Nothing substantial has been done in the last 6 months. If you watch CBN report yesterday, they said that our foreign reserve within the last 3 months has lost 814 billion, which means nothing is going on, and the reason he has not had rest.
All right. Now there have been obvious inconsistencies from the report that the president's legal team gave in defense to the CSU certificate saga, as well as the deposition that was given by Caleb Westberg, the secretary of CSU. You didn't know that there was a deposition given where he swore under oath.
Yes.
Now there were pertinent questions that were asked by Angela Liu and Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes is one of the legal practitioners for CSU.
Yes.
And Angela Liu is a legal counsel representing Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party. And they asked him a question, and according to Caleb Westberg, he said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Bola A Tinubu, we don't know what that A stands for. Bola A Tinubu did indeed attended this particular institution, but that is certificate that was tendered to the Independent National Electoral Commission. They cannot validate it. It cannot be authenticated. So what does that mean? For the presidency, they are saying that, okay, fine, the school has eventually said it, that Bola A Tinubu attended the institution. Supposedly,
that's not enough.
Wait, now that is where the presidency is coming from in defense to this whole thing. They're saying that CSU has eventually confirmed that Bola A Tinubu attended their institution. Any other thing that surrounds it, the discrepancies that we've been putting out, does not matter so long as the institution has affirmed that he attended that particular school, or that name attended that school, despite the fact that the school said they cannot authenticate the certificate that was tendered to INEC. So why would the presidency put aside those other discrepancies, the questions are being asked that Nigerians need valid answers to, and only concentrate on the fact that the school admitted that Bola A Tinubu attended their institution?
Well, they are trying to show that everything is in order, but everything is not in order. What Chicago State University did was a disclaimer of the result that was submitted to INEC.
Okay.
It didn't come from us. And what qualifies you that you attended an institution is the certificate that you obtain from there. I know of many people who will be in the campus deceiving their father that they are in the university. They will stay there and take JAMB, take GCE, and now gain admission. So being walking about in the campus or seeing you attending lectures does not make you a bona fide student of a school.
All right.
It is your certificate that shows that you actually graduated from that school, not just any name.
Why is there no ID card, no record of photo, no driver's license, passport of this particular student that was admitted by the school?
That's why we are saying that there
No
are
serial number.
there are far more questions that have not been answered. So many questions have not been answered. And this is going to hurt the president, hurt Nigeria for many years to come.
Okay, do you think in some way that the school, the organization, the institution, they're also involved in the inconsistency that we're seeing, the discrepancies that a lot of critics, analysts, legal practitioners have been pointing out ever since this whole debacle came up? Do you think the school is hugely involved? Because it started off with the school they were giving discordant perceptions in response to Nigerians asking questions, especially Atiku Abubakar himself, concerning the release of that academic record.
Well, I feel that there are a lot of cover-up here and there. The school is involved in this game. Then the APC is also involved in this game. And I have listened to somebody who attended the Chicago University who said that the school has no good reputation.
So you're saying that the school is known for things like this?
Sure.
For such discrepancies, for such untoward, untransparent perception or aspect to the conduct of their educational activities.
I have on my own Googled the Chicago State University, and what I see it wasn't impressive at all. It wasn't impressive at all.
For the school, they've claimed that ever since this debacle commenced, they have been embarrassed a lot. The situation has exposed them to unnecessary scrutiny from the public and also from the media. In fact, other students who may have intended to attend their institution have begun to question the validity, authenticity of their institution to grant awards, diplomas, whatsoever, and that in a certain way, PR wise, that's public relation wise, they've been trying to do a lot of damage control on the way this particular case has kind of, put them in the perception of a lot of people. For example, they said they've been hugely embarrassed. They've been doing a lot of PR to see how they can revive the image of the school back to the authentic and definite way the school used to be perceived as. Then a couple of other students too within the institution, as well as students who have actually graduated from the institution, have been asking questions that they normally don't used to ask before. And so they're saying that they really want to be done with this and for the school to focus on its academic schedule. What's your take on the school's response?
They are trying to deny their involvement, but for me, Chicago State University is like state of Nevada in America, where you can get the fastest divorce certificate on earth. Go to Nevada, you can get divorce certificate in 4 minutes.
In 4 minutes.
In 4 minutes. Nevada is where you can get the fastest divorce certificate. So to me, Chicago State University is where you can get the quickest diploma in the world.
Now, for the All Progressives Congress, they feel that this has been a major distraction on their administration moving forward to strengthen the Nigerian economy and also implement policies that it promised Nigerians it would implement. For example, they also mentioned that strategic processes that are meant to be implemented by the government on security, welfare, palliative, and other measures, that it is not helping with this particular situation, creating that diversion from the minds of a lot of Nigerians. Now, a couple of critics have also asked Atiku Abubakar to drop the case, saying that he has failed, and let the Supreme Court actually make its own decision. For example, a legal practitioner, a former NBA president, Olisa Agbakuba, said he's actually ashamed of legal practitioners giving their own opinion concerning the certificate saga. He said they should know better than responding to this particular case. In fact, he called out the media too, saying that they're also, involved in distracting the people from the focus or the agenda of policy making and economic improvement. What's your take on what Olisa Agbakuba said?
I think different. Atiku Abubakar should pursue that case to a logical conclusion. Whether Supreme Court accept fresh evidence or not, my concern is the morality of the case. Morality of the case for me is far more important than whether Supreme Court accept a fresh evidence or not. And it has exposed Nigeria as one of the worst than Somalia.
Wow.
Worse than Uganda. So for me, the morality of that case is far more important than the outcome.
All right. Mr. Onosike, I don't know if you know Daniel Bwala. Daniel Bwala is one of the spokesperson of Atiku Abubakar. And yesterday evening, Keyamo made a statement on his X account. In fact, Keyamo said that Atiku Abubakar has no case. For example, if he claims that certificate was forged, he should provide the vendor that tendered that certificate as forged. That vendor is the only person or individual that can exonerate him at the Supreme Court. But if he doesn't have any vendor, then he has no case to prove. So he says that all his effort is in futility, and literally, but just because he's a serial failure, that is why he continues to go on and on. He made a couple of derogatory statements, as you know, Keyamo is of when it comes to national discourse or things of politics, anything that is politically inclined that doesn't suit the party that he belongs to. So, but the question is for Daniel Bwala, after hearing or reading on that statement that Atiku Abubakar made on his X account, he said that if First Just Keyamo is not careful, that he is going to expose. In fact, he said that Keyamo, in a post which he shared on Sunday, said that Atiku must find the vendor who issued the replacement certificate to find out if it is genuine or not. And so for Daniel Bwala, he is saying that if Festus Keyamo is not careful, that he would expose a lot of things about him. In fact, even concerning the entire process and proceedings that went on during the elections on February 25. What's your take on that?
Well, for me, if Daniel has such and he is keeping it, he's not doing Nigeria good. If he has those evidences, those facts, he should release them.
According to him, he said that if he also speaks further, he's going to expose the statements he made during the deposition while he swore under oath. That's what Daniel Bwala is saying. So apparently, Festus Keyamo is part of the legal team of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and there were some things that were said under oath during the deposition. He said if Festus Keyamo should talk too much, if he keeps on talking and making statements unverifiable, that he is going to produce damning reports about what he said during the deposition about this particular certificate. What does that mean?
But does Daniel has any reason to protect Keyamo?
Well, it was under oath. This is a case that is already in court. Possibly let it be said in court, because he said to him, and ask him whether he still stands by the statement he made under oath in that case, just like the CSU registrar statement under oath. So he's asking what Atiku said, Keyamo versus House of Assembly, Lagos State, 2002, and all that. He referred to a case that had occurred earlier.
The same case. It was Keyamo that raised this case,
which was said under oath at the time. So he said that if he is not careful, he's going to expose what Keyamo said under oath at the time, meaning that Keyamo is being double-mouthed. What he said earlier is not what he's saying now.
He became a minister by afterthought. So he's working hard to protect his job, but sincerity is far from him.
Wow. All right, Mr. Bitanosiki, thank you so much for actually being part of the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. I sincerely do appreciate your intellectual input, especially as I usually ask you to come in a short minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And now, just before we wrap up the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM, let's take a look on one of the stories trending on the foreign scene. Now, more than 700 people have been killed in Israel since Hamas militants attacked the country on Saturday. At least 560 have been killed in Gaza after Israel launched strikes in response. Questions have been asked if Iran supports the plan for Israel's attack, also the international victims of Hamas assault on Israel, how Hamas has staged lightning assault no one thought possible. There have been terrifying moments. No electricity, food, water, gas for Gaza disclosed by Israel, and then its official state is said that they have declared a complete siege on the territory, saying electricity, food, water, fuel would be cut off. According to residents, aid has not reached the enclave since Saturday. Now, there are footages showing deserted streets covered with rubble from collapsed buildings following Israeli airstrikes. More than 500 people have died in these attacks. Gaza is home to about 2.3 million people in total, 80% of whom rely on humanitarian aid, mainly due to the ongoing hostilities with Israel. The territory is ruled by Hamas militants, but Israel controls the airspace and its shoreline. It also restricts who and what goods can cross its border. Neighboring Egypt strictly controls what or who can pass through its border with Gaza too. To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. You heard that Tinubu has appointed members of the Presidential Media Advisory Team. Wike has slammed EU over reports on the 2023 presidential election. Olisa Agbakobo has reacted to legal practitioners discussing Tinubu's CSU certificate saga. Tinubu eventually has spoken after Chicago University's certificate forgery scandal, and former Article's aide who accused ex-VP of corruption appointed as media assistant to Keyamo. That's a wrap on the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. Up next is the Evening Rush with Precious.